All right, Jeremy Hazel here from 7th Season Studios, and this comes from our class, The Ultimate Toolmaker's Guide to the Affinity Suite. So if you like what you hear and you want a little bit more, go ahead and check out the link below for a special price for our YouTube family and a special discount on our monthly subscription plan. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, folks, welcome back to Affinity Designer. Now, we're going to be making some halftone brushes in this course, and you do this differently for Affinity Designer than you do for Affinity Photo. In Affinity Photo, there's a really cool filter called halftone, and we do have tutorials on how to do that later in this class. But for this one, I want to show you how to create a halftone texture. Now, the reason that I have this in this area is because if we didn't have the discussion on texture, you wouldn't know how to do this. So in reality, a halftone brush is a brush shape with a halftone texture. Now, what is halftone? Halftone is a series of circles, and they used to use it in print, let's say, to create an image, but it used much less ink. Nowadays, it's used to shade and to kind of get that retro look, and there's 100 different ways to do it. But in reality, all halftone comes down to three things: the size of the dot, the intensity of the dot, and the angle of the pattern. So if you understand these three things, dot size, the intensity of the dot, and the pattern, you will be able to make a variety of different brushes as an illustrator. Now, Affinity Designer, this is going to be a very complex tutorial. So we're going to take about 10-15 minutes, and you may have to watch it more than once. I got to tell you, I had to do it more than once. So let's go ahead and bring out these panels. We're going to start with the symbols panel. We're going to bring out the transform panel. And then, because I always use it, we're always going to keep the layers panel out. So let's go ahead and plop that out. I'm going to put the stroke panel back and such. We're not going to need that. I'm not going to need styles. All right. Let's even move the color back right now. So these are the panels I'm going to be using. Now, I've got a 1500 by 1500 pixel workspace, and it's important that it's square, and you want it big enough to be usable. That's why I'm going with 1500. Now, this is going to work on something called a symbol. Now, again, I'm going to assume you have some Affinity Designer chops because this is an advanced tutorial. So symbols, of course, as you know, when you create something and modify it as a symbol, everything you duplicated does this. So we're going to start with the dot. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to make a little black dot, and I'm going to fill it with black. All right. Now with this dot, we're going to come to our transform panel and we're going to make it 10 pixels. So 10 by 10. Notice that I have the aspect ratio locked. Now I'm going to zoom on in here. And what I want to do with the transform panel, I want to make it 5 pixels away from the edge of everything. So I have 1 pixel, 1 dot, I should say, over here. Now what I'm going to do, this is essential, I'm going to create a symbol. Boom. Now this is our origin. In this tutorial, this upper left-hand portion will always be the origin. Now we're going to take advantage of the power duplicate function of Affinity Designer. So with this selected, these three keys are going to be really important. Control, Alt, Shift. And I want you to pull this over until you get to 20 pixels. Okay, now notice that I'm at 20.6. I'm going to go ahead and release everything. Now don't touch anything. And you're going to click and you're going to go 20, enter. Now watch this. We're not touching anything yet. Control J is going to be duplicate. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to duplicate this thing all the way across. Now, how do I know when to stop? You see that our workspace was 1500 and we're at 620. You keep on hitting that Control J until you get past 1500. I would like you to go to 1800. I'm personally going to go to 1800 pixels. You want this thing, 1910 is good. You want this thing to be bigger than your workspace. All right. Now, why did we do this? Notice you have a ton of symbols down here in your layers panel. Okay, if we go all the way to the bottom, let's slide this out. Watch this. The ellipse that started it all right here. If I come in and make this 12, watch the dots. Boom. If I come in and make this 8, watch the dots. The reason we used a symbol is now I can adjust the dot size. Plus, let's go ahead. I'm just going to show you how this works with color. If I wanted to make this red, notice here I can make these dots bright red. I can do anything I want to this symbol. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make this back to black. And this is why we do what we do. Now, why did I overshoot the workspace? Because I'm going to shift the entire thing. Now, this ellipse, let's call this origin. And make sure you are changing the ellipse, not the symbol. And then twirl this open. Now grab all of these. These things are now going to move. Hold shift, right click, and group. This is now a line. All right, now we're going to take advantage of the power duplicate again. Let's go ahead and hit Control, Alt, Shift. And now what this is going to do, it's going to duplicate it. And we're going to drop it down. And now, remember how these things were 5 pixels down and they were 10 pixels across? What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to about 12 and a half. Okay? Now, see how they're overlapping? I'm going to release my mouse. I'm going to release my keys. Now I'm going to go 12.5. Now that doesn't look great. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to 2.5. Okay. Now that still doesn't look great. Let's go ahead and go to 0. Okay. That still doesn't look right. Negative 2.5. Now we're good. Now we're good. All right. Notice how now negative 2.5, 12.5 in the Y. We've now got good differentiation and good spread on these dots. All right. Now here's the trick. Let's go ahead and let's zoom out. Now let's check our work real quick. If I go to this group, which is still the top group, and I go down to the bottom of this group, my symbol should remain intact, right? Origin dot. Let's go ahead and make this 9 pixels. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, we're making it happen. All right, now, why did I do it this way? You're always going to want to offset these rows. Now, let's go ahead and now combine these groups. Watch this. Group the groups. Group. Now, what do you think we're going to do? We're now going to grab Control, Alt, Shift, which will allow us to power duplicate. And we're going to swing down here. Okay, now we're paying attention to this, right? What do we want to offset here now? Well, we had a negative 12 point offset. So what I'm looking for now, let's try the Y, 17. Let's try 20. 20 is the magic number. Notice how if we zoom in here now, we've got good differentiation between here and here and here and here. Now watch this. Because we held Alt, Control J. Ooh, okay, that's bad. Control Z. All right, let's delete that other group now. All right, let's try it again. Control Alt Shift. Make sure you're on the group. Pull it directly down. and then change this over to 20. Okay, notice we have a group. Unfortunately, I grabbed the rectangle the first time. Now, Control J, watch this. And away we go. By the way, this might choke your computer, so give it time. And you're going to hit this until you go all the way through. So once you get that done, what you're going to do is you're going to put all the groups in one massive group. And be kind to your computer. This one is going to tax it a lot. Now, notice once I went to the group, I have dots outside of here. And I have dots under here. Now, this is why. We now want to make this seamless. Watch this. We want to be able to come to here. And we're going to shift it over until we get half of those circles on the side. And then what are we going to do to the top here? We're going to shift it up until we get half those circles on the side. This is what makes the dots seamless. If you get this part wrong, it's going to be pretty jacked up. All right. Let's move it. And I'm just touching my computer key here. And now, where is the origin point in all of this? The origin point is in the lowest most group. In the lowest most group. And it is right here. So the origin point is here. So whatever you do now to the origin point is going to be done to everything. So if you shift this size, it will shift the size of the origin point. Now I can back that up, right? If I come to here, we go to that origin point, and I decide to make that something different. Let's go ahead and go to the transform. And I decide to make that 9. Now, notice I didn't have the ratio set, so I got to go 9 by 9. And what happens to all of the rest? They shrink. All right. So now you've got your pattern. Now, what do you do with it? Here's what you're going to do with it. Once you've got it seamless where you want it, you go to File. And let's go ahead and just grab the entire group. And you're going to go to File, Export, PNG, Export. Let's call this halftone ready for adjustment. Okay, and let's put it in the course folder. That way we've got it. All right. Now, what do you do with this? Let's go to File, New. Bring up a new. And now let's go to File, Place. Bring in the halftone. Bring it up. And now, you remember when I said dot size matters? You know how to change the size. Dot intensity matters. You know how to change the intensity. Now we can change the rotation. And this is why you wanted it a little bit larger than what you planned on using. Because when you turn it to be 30 some degrees, it's going to get a little bit jacked up. All right, let's go 30-degree offset. All right, then we go File, we go Export, and we can go halftone, 30-degree offset. All right, now, how do we make a brush out of this? This is your texture. So let's go to here, and let's go ahead and then come up to Brushes, create a new category. Now, I've already done that because obviously you can see I've been playing with it. Come up, let's make a new intensity brush. And you have a soft circle from an earlier lesson. So let's go ahead and create that soft circle. That's your tip shape, right? Your nozzle shape. And then let's set the texture. We're going to go ahead and we're going to set it as halftone 30-degree offset. All right, now I'm going to keep the scale at 100. I don't want to bring that scale terribly down because then it starts pixelating a little bit. I'm going to keep it at about 100, maybe 103. I want to set the size jitter to be about 72. And I think that size of about 64 is where I want to start. So now let's go ahead and try it. I'm just going to go ahead and bring up a brand new sheet. Let's go ahead and throw on a rectangle so that we can see it work. Come over here, grab this brush, grab my brush. Let's bring it up a little bit. Now, I'm not using my Wacom. That looks pretty darn sexy. All right. I really like that. I think that we've got a good halftone. Now, where are you going to use this? Honestly, you could change the blend mode on it. You can do different intensities of it. I will make a pattern that is, say, 50% intense, 70% intense, 90% intense with the same pattern so that I can create layered effects. All right, folks, that's a little bit on how to create halftone in Affinity Designer. That one was a tough one, but you now have a fully modifiable sheet that you can use. And remember, it stems 100% from this origin symbol. So any adjustments you're going to make, change the origin, everything else comes into play. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take the next step.